Hello and welcome to the Supernatural Track here at Continual. I'm your host, Gail C. Martin, and tonight we are talking about the random gods that showed up in Supernatural. Sure, there was Chuck, but it's kind of amazing over the 15-year run how many deities, demigods, and other quasi really important beings showed up in Supernatural, and of course, matched wits with the Winchesters. But before we launch into that, let's let our wonderful panelists introduce themselves, starting with Hansi.
Hi, I'm Hansi Oppenheimer of Spree Projects, and I write a little bit about fandom, and I've been documenting fandom for 22 years.
Okay, Anne.
Hi, I'm Ann Wicker, and I'm a latecomer to the Supernatural family, but I dived right in and a few years ago and haven't looked back. I'm also a writer and editor, and I'm a former journalist. So let's talk about random gods.
Yeah. And I'm Gail C. Martin and Morgan Bryce. As Gail, I write epic and urban fantasy. As Morgan, I write urban fantasy, male paranormal romance. But all those modern worlds are ones Sam and Dean could walk into and feel right at home. So I wasn't there from the beginning of Supernatural fandom, but I think I've made up for it with obsessiveness since. Let's just go around, name a couple, and then we'll come back around and name a couple more. Hansi, who are two of the first gods that come to your mind that the boys ran into?
I really love a very supernatural Christmas. The heathen gods they run into, I think that they're great because there's that combination of like that hominess that like I love when they mix that with a villain where they're kind of charming on one aspect and then they're really horrible and diabolical on the other. So that's a favorite.
Okay, do you have a second favorite? Because there are a lot to go through.
Oh God, I love the one when they go to the hotel where all the, deities are still like Ganesh is there and Kali is there and Mercury's there. And like, it's like a total Crispin Glover type of Mercury that I think is really interesting. And yeah, that was a good one. And the God of Time. I love that episode.
Kronos.
Yeah, Kronos. Yeah, because you get to see, another period. And I love any of those where they have the boys in another period. That's always really fun.
You get to see Jensen decked out in 1940s attire with a shoulder holster. Forget about Kronos. I was all about the fashion in that one.
that was great. That was great.
Yes, man, yes. Anne.
Well, I wanted to piggyback on the Hammer of the Gods episode that you were talking about, Hansi, with all the different gods that were there, that one. But I rewatched that episode the other night, and I had forgotten that they gave all the gods name tags, like, hello, my name is Odin. And I just thought that what a great comedic touch that was. And Mercury was terrific in that. Well, I thought they were all terrific. And Kali challenging Lucifer, that was really, I really enjoyed that episode. But I have to say that one of my favorites is Fortuna. In the Gamblers episode, just because the goddess of luck, and she was really great in the interaction with Dean playing pool, and then Sam playing pool, and Sam getting her distracted, but then she clearly was impressed because Sam wanted to play for everybody in the bar, not just he and Dean. And she realized that she thought that this kind of hero didn't exist anymore. And I just loved that whole thing, and that they got their mojo back.
There are so many to pick from, and they were mostly also well done. But I liked Osiris in the episode where
Yeah,
Dean
yeah.
Dean was put on trial to decide whether, whether he would live or die. And this was after he had lied about killing the kitsune that Sam had befriended. And I thought that they cast the actor who played the role very well because, we're all picturing the statues from ancient Egypt. And the guy, so they didn't bring out a guy with a ceramic head looking like one of the statues, but they still brought out someone who bore enough of a resemblance that you could imagine, yeah, okay, he could be an Egyptian god. And I thought they did that very well. Back to you, Hansi.
So I've never been clear on the Loki Gabriel thing. Like, I got so confused at one point. Like, is Gabriel hiding in Loki? Is he a god? Is he a guardian? Is he an angel? Like, so he is an angel who's hiding in a god. That's right. He's in witness protection as a god. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Sort of.
Okay, sort of, yes. Supernatural, and it's got to be complicated. But, yeah, but I thought that was interesting.
Okay. Anne.
Well, another one of my favorites that I had to go back and watch it because I had forgotten a lot of the detail is the one called Remember the Titans with Prometheus.
Mm-hmm.
And
so sad.
It was very sad, but it was very interesting the way they used that myth and the idea of, I thought the writers did a really good job having that idea that he was on the mountain and there were other people there, but there was this avalanche and he was kind of released, but he wasn't completely released. So every time he died, the bird would show up and start eating his liver or whatever. But the whole exchange where Sam finally figures out that's Prometheus and that he's a Titan, and Titans are kind of proto gods. And then they decide that, of course, Zeus put the curse on Prometheus for stealing fire and giving it to the humans. And that's why he was cursed. So
trouble too.
Yeah. And then, the fact that curse gets passed down to his child is pretty weird. But it was just, I had to think about this because, Dean is going, well, we'll just summon Zeus and, if he won't cooperate, we'll just kill him. And even Sam's looking at Dean like, what? And
we're killing gods now.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's pretty ballsy even for the Winchesters. And all I could think of was in that one episode near the end where the woman who was working with Billy said, "That's not just stupid, that's Winchester stupid." Yeah. So anyway, but I was the one thing that disappointed me about that episode, I loved Artemis. I thought she was great, but they kind of made Zeus into this sort of, used car salesman kind of guy, with his hair kind of slicked back. And I don't know. I just picture Zeus, more as an older Liam Neeson or something, not.
Sure.
Wondering how much of the mythology has to do with the fact that he fathered an awful lot of the demigods. He must have had something going for him.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I picked a couple of the more obscure ones. One was from the episode What's Up, Tiger Mommy? And it was Vili, who was a Norse god. And this is where we get to see Sam wield Mjolnir, the hammer of Thor.
Oh, yeah.
That was worth it just to see Sam with Mjolnir and his hair and being the wielder of the hammer of Thor. So that was, Billy wasn't a good guy. He was out to eat all the humans, and he had a finger of a frost giant that he bid on at an auction. I want to know who where are these auctions and storage units having all this supernatural stuff in it? Somehow I've always missed out on those. So that one was kind of a fun one. The other one is someone from an episode that I'm not sure this episode is anybody's favorite, but it's because it's kind of one of those that slides past you, Between a Rock and a Hard Place. And this is where Sam and Dean are looking for someone who is killing young women, making them disappear at least. And they go to this religious group where everybody has to either abstain from sex or be revirginated by promising to abstain.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's tough to be. And especially after he recognizes that the woman leading this retreat, he recognizes from, a Casa Erotica tape. And they both don't make good on their pledge. But she's been, the deity involved is Vesta, who is basically using this as a way to serve up virgins for dinner and collect all the virgins and serve takeout. So I just thought that was an interesting twist on the whole Vestal virgins kind of thing, and served up only as Supernatural could do it. Hansi?
Are we counting the horsemen as gods?
Well, they're pretty darn powerful.
Yeah, so I think any episode, I love Billy, but any episode with Julian Richings as Death is like, he once walked past me at a convention dressed as Death for photo ops, and I had seen him on the stage performing as Julian Richings, all punk and cute and adorable, and then he walked past me dressed as Death, and like, the hair on my arms rose up. It was like, holy shit, like so much gravitas in that character.
Okay. Anne?
Well, I picked another kind of obscure one, Gail. It's an episode called "You Can't Handle the Truth," and it's Veritas, who is the Roman goddess of truth, and a young woman summons her to this town, and once she's summoned, anybody who asks for the truth, or asks a question, really is how it kind of plays out in the episode. And Dean falls afoul of that curse, and so he's starting to ask questions, and people are telling him the truth, and it's different from that episode where Jack snaps his fingers and wants everybody to tell the truth. But anyway, Dean, the bad thing in there is that's when he calls Lisa, or Lisa calls him, and she just says she and Ben can't be part of his hunting life anymore. And so that was really hard on Dean. But I thought it was an interesting use of that as a Veritas as a vehicle for how the truth can hurt sometimes. And I just thought it was a really interesting episode.
Is that the one where she doesn't work on Sam and she says like there's something wrong with you?
I'm not sure. I didn't rewatch it. I was just looking. I just remembered most of it.
Yeah, because it works on Dean, but it doesn't work on Sam, because Sam's still like kind of holding stuff in. But I don't remember if it's that episode or a different one.
Well,
Yeah.
Sam would be soulless because it would be season 6. So
Yeah,
it probably work on Sam because he's soulless.
That's true. Yes.
I think one of mine is also Calliope, and that's because I love the episode so much. I mean, that's the 200th episode, the fan fiction musical, Supernatural the musical, and she's taking off with people, and we assume she's going to kill them or eat them or drain them or something, but for now she's stashing them in the boiler room at the high school. And she has this monologue about, but Supernatural has everything. It has life and death and rebirth. And we're all going, sing it, sister. And, then Sam gets her with a sharpened stake. But, for a while there, she was just kind of taking the fan view. So I had to give her credit for that. Going back to the episode with all the gods at the Elysian Fields Hotel, one of the ones that I thought was very interesting who showed up there, we never really got much more about all of the voodoo Loa than this, but we got Baron Samedi. And he, of course, is a Gede. He's a psychopomp. He escorts souls to the afterlife. He is Baron Saturday Night. He's somebody the Winchesters really should have run into before this, because he's just so perfect for it. But
especially with the Crossroads stuff. And I mean, they were dealing with voodoo and, jujus, mojo bags. I mean, yeah.
So he, I love that he showed up, but I would have loved to have seen more of the voodoo Loa, like Papa Legba and so many of the others. But he was great for starters. Hansi?
Gods. Come back to me.
Anne.
Well, this was not exactly a favorite episode of mine, but I thought it was intriguing. And I think it was one of the only ones with a Mayan god. And it's Cacao. I think that's how you say it. Cacao. Yeah. Cacao. And he was
that the sports guy?
Yeah, he made the sports guy made the deal, and he was immortal, and he kept doing all these different sports. And I just remember when Sam and Dean went into the house and found his hidden room with all this sports memorabilia, and they were fascinated, as anybody who's into sports would have been. But then they were also sort of taken aback by the fact that the woman who was pretending to be his mother had been his wife, but she aged and he didn't, and that he got tired of his immortality. And then the wrinkle, which I thought was a really interesting wrinkle, was the fact that here's this however many 100 years old guy, and they still transplanted his organs. He was healthy enough that his organs, and then the organs, just like the heart and whatever else, influenced the people that got them. And so I thought that was really interesting. And it speaks to something that in a lot of these episodes they talk about. Fortuna talked about it. Kronos talked about it in that episode, and that they were gods, and then they just gradually fell out of favor, and Kronos got sort of lost in time, in particular Kronos, because without the regular sacrifices and tributes and that sort of thing, they lost their power. And I just thought that was an interesting underlying theme that most of these gods talked about, that they weren't powerful because nobody believed in them.
That comes up a lot in Neil Gaiman's work, especially like American Gods, where the whole plot is about the new gods and the old gods, and how when people came to the United States, they brought their traditions with them from the old country, but then gradually, as they assimilated, they stopped believing, and so the old gods lost power. And one of the quotes from that book that I always think of with Supernatural, because it's so perfect, is there's a character that says that in the old days, when people sensed a place of power, they built a temple, and nowadays people build a roadside attraction. And I think of how many roadside attractions Sam and Dean stopped at, like Mystery Spot. And, it really makes sense if that was some sort of nexus of power that we just stuck a Roadside America attraction on. Speaking of which, there was the Leshy, which was a Slavic forest god that would, again, receive tribute. People go into the forest or send their spare children into the forest to be sacrificed, and the Leshy would bless the towns. We saw this one in the episode with Paris Hilton, who was the Leshy, and in the Wax Museum where Gandhi attacks. Paris Hilton is there, and she is the Slavic forest spirit. So I thought that was a pretty good one. I keep going back to Hammer of the Gods because there were so many gods in that one. I really wanted more about Kali and Gabriel. I mean, whether it was Cookie, that had to have been a hot pairing, because Kali, goddess of chaos and rebirth, with a skirt of severed arms and a necklace of human fingers, and she is one badass lady, and she stood up to Lucifer very, very well in that episode. But I really I really wanted to see a little more about that relationship, because that would have been something.
Absolutely, it would have been something.
There must be fanfic.
There must be.
There has to be, yeah.
And that reminds me too of something about Fortuna is, and talking about people, the people who came to the United States have brought their old beliefs and that sort of thing with them. How in the world did Fortuna end up in the back of Beyond in Alaska running a pool hall? I wanted that backstory too. That just made me really curious about how she would end up there.
Well, there is the Alaskan and the Yukon Gold Rush, which was after the San Francisco Gold Rush.
Yeah.
And maybe she was there with that, because certainly a lot of people went to strike their fortune and kind of got stuck there.
Maybe. I mean, you would think that she would be more attracted to, Las Vegas or Atlantic City or something. But anyway, it worked. But I just was curious after rewatching that one. I thought, how did she end up here?
It was a good question. Hansi, did you think of something?
Yeah, there was. Give me one more second. Go one more round.
Okay. Well, Anne brought up, Fortuna, and in the animated Supernatural, which only covers sort of seasons 1 and 2, but they have some additional episodes that were created just for the animated versions, and they changed some of the other episodes. There is an episode that only takes place in the animated series, and Sam and Dean go to Las Vegas, and there is a Japanese spirit that is a gambler spirit. Dean already loves to go and gamble. He's good at it. He can play pool. He can play poker. But this spirit kind of creates a compulsion and an addiction to gambling. And so he bedevils Dean throughout the episode. But I thought that was interesting because we didn't get as many Asian spirits as we got Western European spirits, maybe because they had to do less explaining or whatever. But I thought that was truly interesting, that we got to see that Asian spirit.
Yeah, that was really interesting. Was the spirit that where they had to be drunk to see it?
That's what I was just thinking of, that episode too. Like, I don't know if it was a god, but it was a spirit.
Yeah, I can't remember.
Yeah,
that was Japanese too.
In the sake, I think, right? It was great watching me get drunk to fight it, though.
Yeah, wasn't that where Sam asked Dean, "Can you even get drunk anymore?"
Garth is like completely wasted after 2 sips.
Yeah, yeah. What did I miss?
Oh, what about the Fates?
Mm-hmm.
They also didn't get a lot of airtime, but we see the Fates for that one episode when they're trying to restore the Titanic.
And she's really annoyed because they met with and she is like the ultimate pissy librarian.
Yeah.
She just
You didn't bring back your books back on time.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was good.
And then there was the episode with I'm just jumping in, Gail.
Sure.
Where Gabriel, whatever, whoever, comes and he's trying to get revenge on Finir. I can't pronounce their names, but there are three of them, and he's trying to, and he has to have a certain kind of wooden sword to kill, sword made of a certain kind of wood to kill them. And I guess he talks Sam and Dean into being his backup because he'll help them with, I guess, Amara, I guess it was Amara, if Sam and Dean will help him with this. And evidently they were the people, one of them I know was the son of Loki. Maybe they all three were the real Loki. And they had befriended Gabriel, and so that's how he got into being Loki in witness protection. And so but they had to be killed in a certain way. And so I thought that was a pretty interesting twist that we didn't, we often, Gabriel always seemed to be the comedy relief in so many ways. And in this episode, he was being deadly serious about, and I wish I could remember the episode better.
Well, there was also one where I think it was Dean and Cass went to an alternate universe to retrieve something. It wasn't the Leviathan Blossom, but it was one of those errands. And they ran into two giants that Cass called Gog and Magog, which would have been the Old Testament names. But in their own universes, they were Glither and Yokoth. And they really didn't do anything except threaten the boys and then die. But they, join the crowd. Hey, we got this whole stack of dead gods over here. But they were there. So, a nod to Gog and Magog for showing up. Participation for dead gods.
Yeah, I was pretty amused on the Super Wiki page about deities. Mm-hmm. There's a long list about who kills, there's lists of the names of the gods, but then at the bottom, there's this list of how they died and who killed them.
Yeah. Well, and, does Eve count as a god? She was the mother of all monsters.
I would say yes, because she brought about the Leviathan, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And honestly, that begs the question of Lilith. At least from a lore standpoint, Lilith was much more than just a powerful demon, because in historic lore, she was the first wife of Adam, who got set aside because she was a little too uppity and got pissed. And our Lilith on Supernatural was definitely pissed, but she was edging up there toward some of that mega power. Who aren't we mentioning? I
just noticed the scarecrow, the veneer.
Oh, I was just thinking about that too. Right? Definitely, we're on the same page here. Yes,
we are. And I loved that episode. I know creepy. That it was, it started off with Sam and Dean arguing, which I know Gail doesn't ever like, but I thought that
hurts.
Yes.
I thought that it was another one of those themes that seems to recur in a lot of fantasy, where they sacrifice, and again it's that sacrifice thing, and as long as they sacrificed to the tree god, then their town would be prosperous, their crops would grow, all of that. And I mean, we see that over and over in like there was a Buffy episode where they had to sacrifice, the fraternity had to sacrifice to the snake thing, but you see that in recurring, it's a recurring trope, I guess, with
smash the demon patriarchy.
Yeah. getting the, having either you get advantage, like, you get to be a judge, or you get to do this or that, or, your crops grow.
Mm-hmm.
But they were going to sacrifice the niece. That's like where the whole thing fell apart. It's like, geez, like even family don't mean anything.
Right.
There was also, I mean, I think we should count Amara, because she was, as the darkness, she was equal with Chuck. And so I think she definitely counts as being a god. Honestly, I would count Old Death. We never got to see him reap God. I was waiting for that, and we didn't get there. But he had said that he existed before God, and that someday he would reap God. And that pretty much puts you up there on a pedestal in my eyes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Quirks, great quirks.
Mm-hmm.
As long as he brought him snacks, it was like
yeah.
What about Savannah? Like, their imaginary friends, are they gods or others, or?
I would have said that they were probably more spirits, kind of like helpful spirits, that they're supernatural, but I don't know that anybody prayed to them or worshiped them or revered them in the same way that some of the creatures that were thought of as gods were revered. Samhain is another one. I know they call it Samhain.
Thank God you said it right. Thank you.
Samhain. But we got to see Samhain in one of the episodes, and was that Great Pumpkin?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
An incredible, powerful demon that was worshipped by some people. So didn't hang around long, ran into the Winchesters, but definitely made an appearance, and certainly shows up in the lore outside of the show.
Oh yeah, and again, that's one of those gods that the people moving to America brought with them.
Oh yeah, definitely. One of the sources of some of the gods that get mentioned, not in the show, but in one of the tie-in books called Mythmakers. That is one of the officially licensed books that are extra episodes. And it mentions a bunch of gods that the Winchesters tangle with. So if you're looking for extra gods, random gods, look for that book in the tie-in series. Who else are we missing here? It seemed like for a while you were just tripping over gods.
Yeah, now I'm feeling fuzzy.
And you've got this.
We talked about Vesta, didn't we? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do we count the empty?
Is the empty a consciousness?
Well, it seemed sentient. It was conscious enough to have a grudge.
That's true.
It mostly wanted to go back to sleep, which I can identify with, but it did hold a grudge. Yeah. And it was, it threatened Cass by saying, it wasn't just a predator that takes prey. It was willing to make a deal for a future payoff, which to me is some, try that with a lion. So I'm thinking that there is sentience there.
Yeah, makes sense. I was thinking of Amara too, because I really like her arc. Like, the more she became used to society and people, the more interesting her character got. And just like how annoyed she got with Chuck later on and was just like, this is my life. Beat it.
Well, he killed her masseuse. I mean, that's hard to forgive. They're hard,
Damn him.
hard to find.
Yeah. And one that I just thought of in looking at the list is Annabus from the Lily Suter episode, where she is trying to, she's trying to help them with Jack, but she wants to know if she dies, if she's going to go to heaven to see her daughter. And Annabus can't tell her. He said, I don't, he has the, what is it? The calculating thing. Abacus, yes. He has the good and bad abacus, or you go to heaven or hell abacus. And I thought he was an intriguing character, remaining totally neutral in the face of her distress. And but I thought that was a good touch for that. I mean, it was a good little plot there with her. So,
well, if you're really looking at who's got the juice, Jesse the Antichrist should have counted, because if he was really that powerful, and I kept hoping I was really hoping for a league of superheroes there at the end to overcome Chuck and get Jesse and get Mrs. Butters and get some of these other superpower people. But if he was really that powerful, then humanity certainly would have revered him in another time as godlike, even if he wasn't, currently accepting tribute.
And I was always confused. I mean, I guess because he was the son of a demon and a human, he was not a Nephilim. Who a Nephilim would be the son of an archangel and a human.
Yeah.
And I guess Lily Suter's daughter was human, because it was just that they thought that she had a relationship with a regular angel, but the daughter was not that angel's child. So that was, but wasn't there another
transgender cows?
What?
Is that the one where we get transgender or gender bender cows? They go to the door. Is that episode?
I don't remember.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, there's like a flashback for Kaz's guilt.
Oh, yeah, Kaz was in
Nephilim.
Male vessel at the time, so it was Kaz, but it wasn't Jimmy Novak.
Right.
He was with the squad of angels that showed up to kill Lily Sunder's family. Yeah.
Right. That's right. And wasn't there another one that the woman was that?
Well, Jackson Nephilim.
Jackson Nephilim, but this was a female, and she was the daughter of an angel and a human, and to pass some sort of test, Cass was supposed to kill her or something. I can't remember.
I don't remember that one.
I remember something about them cutting off like her. She had like a tattoo of, right? Didn't they have to get like the skin of the tattoo for the spell, supposedly?
I remember that, but I don't think that's the same thing I was talking about.
Okay.
But anyway, we're not on the same page this time.
There's so much.
Oh, I know.
It's insane. I hope we can save the Winchesters.
Yes. Well, and they had their own, I don't know if you would call the Akrita gods, but they certainly had more power than humans. And the lady who was the top dog with the Akrita certainly thought of herself as a god before she, of course, met her inevitable demise at the hands of Chesters.
Yeah.
But they were kind of creepy bugs. They reminded me a lot of the ones in Babylon 5 that were kind of spidery. Anything that looks like that, just okay. A flamethrower, give me a flamethrower. I'm done with this. And then we have Chuck. You know, Chuck was about as random a god as you could get.
Chuck. I loved him so much. It just broke my fucking heart. Sorry.
That's okay. But you know, Chuck went from being a drunk writer, okay, totally believable, to a prophet of the Lord, still drunk, to I forgot to tell you I'm actually God. And I have a sister. And you know, that was a being that we had hints of him. I don't think that the writers were prescient enough from the first 5 seasons to really plan out, and 15 years from in the future we're gonna make God.
Yeah,
they were that good. But
yeah, I don't think that they had that long a story arc in mind, but I did really laugh when he's at the bunker and he's drinking out of a mug that says "World's Greatest Dad."
Well, and we also had briefly Godstiel when Cass decided that, you know, he couldn't do a worse job, so he ate the Leviathans and tried to, and kind of, you know, went off the deep end like every New Age guru and televangelist. So he didn't last too long. And Metatron, who kind of went for the God thing too.
Another weird, you know, progressive character that you loved in the beginning and then hated.
Terrific actor. I give him credit for making me hate him that bad.
Really?
Oh, I know.
Actor. But I was really ready for Metatron to, you know, bite the dust. And then he got a redemption arc, sort of. But he did kind of go for, I'm going to be the new god since the position's open.
He did. Were there any Native American gods?
What
There
about
are
the one where
there's 1 or 2 in the tie-in books that are done. I don't know. We had some Native American monsters like the Wendigo.
Right.
and didn't we have the guy who ate animal parts to give him strength?
The snake guy?
Yeah, snake guy. The snake guy, yeah.
Because he became what he ate?
Yeah. I don't know
I
how
don't-
God, but
Yeah, I don't know if I would have considered him a god, but maybe, I don't know. But I mean, it's interesting to me that they never delved into I used to read, haven't read one in a while, but I read a lot of Tony Hillerman books. And there's a lot about the Native American beliefs and that sort of thing. And I've always found Native American, the Anasazi and all that really interesting. And so it's sort of surprising that they didn't do much with the voodoo gods, that they didn't do more with the Native American gods and legends, you know.
well,
they did have a walker at one point, I think, in an episode.
Yeah, they did.
You know, holy spirits to, I think, the Navajo.
Yeah.
But right.
And the Native Americans have their own version of the trickster too.
Well, there are so many that they didn't get to. I mean, they didn't get the Orishi from Santeria. They didn't get many of the Loa. There are so many other belief systems that we saw a few of the Hindu gods, like we saw Ganesh in Elysian Fields. the Elysian Fields Hotel, the Hammer of the Gods. And that was funny when Dean walks past his room and sees an elephant and then comes back and sees a guy. Keeps referring to him as Babar. But, we, again, so many gods there that we could have gotten to. I don't know why, well, there were only 327 episodes, so
it's interesting because like Buffy had progression. Like she started, the master, and then it built up, and then it was the mayor, and then it was the military, and it was, the stakes keep getting higher. Supernatural's so mixed. It's like,
well, the first couple seasons were just run-of-the-mill witches and ghosts and monsters. And then we got into the angels and the demons, but God was missing, and the apocalypse, and then it kind of went from there. But I'm just trying to think if there are any of the other gods that we've forgotten, because there were so many. Lucifer tried. He went and sat on the throne and decided he took about 5 minutes of listening to prayers and was like, I'm done, I'm out of here. You all whine too much. I don't want to hear it. Well, folks, I think we may have covered all the major bases, unless somebody can think of something else. But that's a good run. There were a whole lot of high-powered creatures that showed up, and the Winchesters mostly dusted them all. So, moral of the story:
that's true, isn't it?
If you think you're a god, don't go up against the Winchesters.
Yeah. Don't go up against Winchesters. I think it's just a great. I'm gonna leave it at that.
Well, we are at the end of our time. So before we wrap up, please tell everybody where we can find you. Hansi?
I'm Hansi Oppenheimer. You can find me at squeeprojects.com or Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook under Squee Projects, SQUEE Projects. Thanks.
Awesome. And
you can find me most of the time on Facebook under Ann Wicker, and I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. Twitter not so much, but Instagram as Ann Wicker 2, I think. And you can always spot my picture as my bracelets. So anyway, and I'm always joining Gail's Team Free Will NC page and here on Continual.
And I'm pretty easy to find at gailcmartin.com, morganbryce.com. I'm on most of the main social medias under one or both of those names. So if you spell them right, you'll find me. I do run the Supernatural TFWNC group here on Facebook. I'm a columnist for the Winchester Family Business blog, but most of the time you can find me here on Continual. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. And thanks to all of you for watching and listening. There will be more Supernatural coming up on Continual. So we'll see you online.